Yeah, my name is Dan Casey. I've been an ER tech for about 7, 8 years now, and I've worked in Central Florida, all over Florida, really in level three, twos, and now level one trauma center. So I've got a lot of experience in just different kind of ERs and ER environments all over Florida. How do you become an ER tech? I think everyone kind of comes from some sort of background. Me personally, when I started out as an ER tech, I just got done with being an emergency room registration person, and I went to an EMS school where I was trained in how to become an EMT. Shortly after, I found out I was getting pretty car sick, so I ended up applying to a hospital and got a job as an ER tech. Most ER techs are either EMTs or CNAs. Wow, the relationships between the nurses and doctors are phenomenal. It really just comes down to a big team effort. I know that in some other floors, or if you're talking about other facilities, I've always had the same kind of dynamic within emergency rooms, and that is the teamwork is outstanding. I've heard people from just different units, different hospitals talk about when they're not inside an emergency room, the lack of camaraderie. So when you're working in that kind of a team environment with your nurses, you're really almost, you got to rely on each other. And the teamwork and the relationship, I think, is very unique for an ER tech or ER staff in general than in other parts of healthcare. The responsibilities really varies from what kind of hospital you work in. If it's a level one trauma center, you're going to have completely different kind of responsibilities than if you were working in a smaller, level three hospital. The responsibilities, when you're really coming down to the nitty gritty, a lot of the basic stuff is, your phlebotomy, your splinting. Some hospitals incorporate, you have to do transportation for people, and other hospitals require you to do further training to do more advanced things. And then you're working under your medical director. It just depends on what kind of environment you're working in. If you are working in a smaller level 3 hospital, you are probably going to be the guy who's going to be doing a lot of the splints. If you are working in a level 1 hospital, you are going to be the guy helping the resident, depending on if you work in a level 1 teaching hospital, you're going to be the guy who's helping the resident put the splint on. It just really depends on where you're going, the volume, and really just the facility you're working in. Yeah, really an ER tech is such a critical team member that I don't think it's a lot of recognition because, a lot of times you're just coming in as an EMT or things like that. And a lot of things are addressed to nursing staff or, to the doctors or the PAs. So sometimes they kind of, as an ER tech, you can kind of feel like you're getting neglected, but that's not the case. You really are a critical member of a team whenever a doctor is doing a procedure, whenever a doctor is sewing somebody up, they will probably need you in there to get something because they're sterile, or you are in every awesome case, you are in every case that really needs a second hand. You're going to be in those cases. I think that's not too obvious. Sometimes people kind of think that an ER tech is just a guy who's going to go maybe do transport and maybe do vital signs, maybe just get your blood. But there are so many other things that you get to see and experience on an emotional level and on a physical level that really you can't explain unless you become an ER tech. It's a fantastic job. What's the love life as an ER tech? I think it can be tough because, first of all, I've worked night shifts. I've started working night shifts since the beginning, and I work night shifts now. And I'm sure other healthcare providers run into a situation where you are on night shift, and when you are going on dates or your love life can be cut very short because when somebody is normally sleeping on a normal day schedule, you are up. And then when that person wakes up and is ready to rock and roll, you are now sleeping. So you've only got about a 3 to 4 hour window of times where you feel awake. And that's, when you feel awake, it's maybe your breakfast time and it's their going to sleep time. So it can be very complicated in the sense of the scheduling conflict, nights versus days kind of thing. But as an ER tech, yeah, it can be tricky. It can be very tricky. So, yes. My social life, I would say, is fantastic. Most emergency rooms I've ever worked at have a very tight-knit group. Especially, I've never worked too many times on days. I can tell you about the night shift, and there is really a high contrast between day shift and night shift people. I'm not saying anything bad about day shift people. I just think there's a different type of personality that goes from a day shift person to a night shift person. So when we're talking about the night shift crew, you look at a normal hospital breaks down the staffing, and you've only got about 10 to 14% of the actual staffing there. So I feel like the night shift crew out there, I feel like the night shift crew sometimes feels a little bit more camaraderie. So when you go into like the social aspect of the morning time, sometimes that'll be people's breakfast, but that's just us getting off work and we're ready to go out, and we're ready to party like you would on your day shift, and you get out and party. Days go by completely crazy. Sometimes, you really don't know what's going to walk through the door. You don't know, what kind of a day it's going to be. I know Mondays, if you're in healthcare, you know about these Mondays. Mondays are just ridiculous. And if it's a Monday with the full moon, then it's even more ridiculous for whatever reason. I'm only working 3 12-hour shifts, which is a very common schedule in healthcare. And it really varies. The one thing that's super exciting about going to work every day is the variety of different patients, the variety of just things that little goals that you have to accomplish every day, and the different personalities. By the way, if you get into this healthcare kind of career, you're going to notice, especially if you get into the emergency room, you're going to see different faces, but you're going to see very similar personalities. If you travel from one hospital to another, you're going to see different faces, same personalities. So it's a very fun crew, very, very fun. The pros of being an ER tech, absolutely, you get to, like I said, you get to be in a lot of different areas. You get to be in a lot of different areas at once, in the sense of you get to see ortho stuff. You get to, if you're working in a trauma center, then you get to see a lot of the traumas. If you are working in a rural hospital or a smaller hospital, don't think that's a bad thing. A lot of those smaller hospitals I give massive credit to, because you don't have the resources that a level 1 trauma center has. So they have to use their minds, they have to use their abilities and their resources to that maximum. Those kind of pros of the education you get out of those situations, that is just phenomenal. The cons of being an ER tech. Most ER techs are not making a lot of money. You need to either have some sort of plan. If you want to sustain this kind of career as a ER tech or a medical assistant in the ER, you want to, that's just, you're only making, I mean, here in Florida to all over the United States, you're looking anywhere from like $20,000 to $30,000, just starting out, and you're not really getting these massive pay cuts to where you're going to be able to sustain. So yeah, you are working maybe 3 days a week, but most likely you're probably going to try to pick up some overtime. Maybe you have a second job, especially with the way healthcare is right now. It seems like it's getting tougher at times, and people are a little bit more stressed out. When stress trickles down from the top, I mean, you have a couple different people telling you orders. So when it comes down to the cons part, the biggest gripe you will hear from techs are the nurses that they have to work with, or somebody that they have to work with. And it usually comes down to some sort of micromanagement issue because somebody's under stress, or some sort of very simple, easy issue that can be resolved. And if you just take it like a grain of salt, you'll be fine. So I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons if you enjoy the lifestyle, if you enjoy the excitement, and if you enjoy just really getting to know your patients and really just being there, being an ER tech. It's a fantastic job. It's the weirdest job you'll ever have. Weirdest.